Hi there, my name is Roxanne Potvin. You're listening to Talking Blues. I am a musician, I am a podcast editor and sometimes producer, and I study perfumery for fun as well.
I'm going to start by going back to the beginning of your musical journey. Tell me how you got into music initially, or what drew you into music.
Yeah, so music was always a big part of my life and my upbringing. Like we both my parents loved music, and so it was really just part of the household. And my extended family also on both sides enjoy music. So, there was always like cousins and aunts and uncles that could play something, and sing and the enjoyment of music was always present, So that was definitely sort of the bedrock. And then I remember when I was younger, like a child, like maybe, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, around then, I remember thinking like, oh, I would like to have a nice singing voice, And actually there's a there's a tape of me singing at like 2 years old somewhere at my dad's house. But I didn't really start. Well, I mean, I took piano lessons, when I was like from 7 to 10 or whatever. But I didn't really start, I don't think, practicing singing until I was in my early teens, trying to sing, trying to sing to I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. And you know what I mean? Like, very badly. And then I got a guitar. Like, I got my first guitar because I got right into the Beatles when I was like 14.
How did that happen?
When the anthologies aired on TV, and I was watching those with my parents. It was like a few weeks in a row. I think it was like on a Sunday night or whatever. It was like once a week they aired the episodes, and I just. But I was always into old music. Like I remember being like 7 or 8 years old for my birthday. My parents got me. I don't know if people remember this, but the Jive Bunny soundtrack. It was like a mishmash of all these old hits from the 50s and 60s. And it's funny because I wanted that cassette because I loved, they had like a clip that they would play on the radio, and I was just so drawn to that. And there were songs on that tape that I already knew, and my mom was like, how do you know that song by the Everly Brothers? And I was like, I don't know, I just know it. Like, it was just like this music would just stick to me, like glue. Whenever I heard it, I was so drawn to it. So the Beatles, getting into the Beatles was kind of just like a natural progression to all the other songs that I loved hearing by, Little Richard or Chuck Berry or Elvis or the Everly Brothers or all that. And then, so the Beatles made me kind of initially want to learn how to play guitar to be able to play Beatles songs. And then trying to write songs started at that point. Because I was always writing too. As a kid, I would always write my thoughts. I would always write, poems, and I just enjoyed writing. And then blues in particular, that came along when I saw Johnny Lang when I was like 15. So I had a big fat crush on Johnny Lang, obviously. But I was like, oh, what's that? What's blues, Because I remember hearing the term, but I didn't really know what the difference between blues and jazz was. Like, I knew what jazz was because my mom liked to play jazz, like on Saturday nights at the house or whatever, while she was making supper. and I remember asking my dad, like, what's the difference between blues and jazz? And my dad showed me Stevie Ray Vaughan, and also, which was a significant moment, he had a tape by Howlin' Wolf, and he gave me that, and I must have been like, 15 or something. And I put that tape in, and it just blew my mind. Like, I had never heard anything like that before, and I was so intrigued. It was so mysterious and so dark and so wild sounding. Like, I was immediately like, just like, what's this? Okay, I need to find out more about blues. And so that started that rabbit hole. And so I saved up my, babysitting money and ended up buying a Telecaster, like that year in like
Thinking you were gonna play the
97.
blues.
Yeah, wanted to learn how to play solos and play blues. And so then I spent the next like 3 years just hunkered down in my bedroom trying to play blues. Yeah.
I mean, there's a big difference between Johnny Lang and Howlin' Wolf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And I guess when you hankered down and to play the blues, what were you listening to and what were you hoping to emulate?
So anything really. Like, I guess it started, so I've started buying albums. I bought like best of B.B. King. Like, I would go to the Music World and go to the blues section and just kind of like pick up whatever, B.B. King best of, Muddy Waters best of. I would read interviews in like Guitar World with, Johnny Lang, and he would talk about Albert Collins. Oh, okay, I'm going to go get an Albert Collins album. So I got Ice Pickin'. And then he would talk about Albert King. So I would go get Albert King, So it started like that. So I would just try to play B.B. King, or I would, so I became aware of a blues club in Ottawa called the Rainbow. And I just was dreaming of the day that I could go see bands at the Rainbow, And I remember going actually with my friend's mom. Yeah, so her friend was playing at the Rainbow, and I think it was a Saturday afternoon or something. It must have been. Anyway, and so we went, and we were underage, we were probably like 16, 17 or whatever. But we were allowed in because it was the daytime and we were accompanied by an adult. And so, anyway, long story short, I moved away to go to Montreal to study acting because initially that's what my dream was. I wanted to be an actor from when I was very, very small. And so I went to Cégep in theater in Montreal. Still listening to the blues while I was there, still trying to learn, still practicing and whatever. And that lasted like a year. And I dropped out because all we were doing was reading plays, and what I wanted to do was act. So I was like, this doesn't work for me. So I dropped out. A year later, I came back home. And then I started going to the Rainbow like regularly. And I played... I went up to the first open jam, of my entire life, like when I was like, must have been like 18 on a Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoon was open jam. And, and then I just started meeting people in the scene, J.W.
I wonder, at that point,
yeah.
Did you have any other friends of your age who were into the blues?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I was the total weirdo. I was a weirdo. Like,
and was there anybody you could talk to about the blues before you went to the jams? No. Okay.
No. Yeah, I mean, I had friends. Don't get me wrong. I had very good friends, and they're my friends to this day. But I would go to parties, and all they would play was Nirvana and Rage Against the Machine and like Cypress Hill and Hole, and I would go like put the Beatles on, and they would just like look at me really weird. And that was not my that was not who I shared musical nerding out with. So that's how I started meeting people on the scene in Ottawa. So J.W. Jones was my age, and Steve Mariner was a little bit younger, but they were in a band together, and so they became sort of the people that I looked up to. Like, that's I would like to do that. So we became friends, and I started hanging out with the blues crowd, in Ottawa, and started a band eventually, and then another band, and started just playing around town. It was it's crazy when I think about it. Like, it's a pretty cool thing.
If I'm not mistaken, your first recording was with J.W. Jones?
Was it my first song that I ever did was on his record?
One of your
Maybe.
early songs.
Yeah. Oh, no, you're right. Actually, I forgot. Yeah. I wrote that after 9/11, actually. It was about somebody leaving the house and never coming back, And, yes, that's right. I forgot about that. That was the first song I ever wrote.
Wow.
Or that I ever finished, because I could never figure out how to finish a song, like how to be finished. And he asked me to write a song, and I said, okay, now I have to finish a song. So that's right. That was the first song I ever finished. But then I think the following, or maybe a couple of years later, then I made my first album, which was Careless Loving.
Let's go back to that first recording experience. What was that like for you?
With JW?
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. I mean, they went in and recorded the bed tracks, so I wasn't there for that. I just came to sing on top of it. Yeah. So, it was fun. I was just happy and excited, and yeah.
And how are you feeling about your singing at that point?
I was feeling good. Yeah, I was feeling good. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the innocence of youth. It's just so you're just so excited about being able to do something that you have confidence. Or it seems like that's what it was for me. I was just so excited about being able to do it, that I felt good about it.
So, at this point, you've now given up the idea of becoming an actor?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I kind of switched to.
And then switched to a point where you're thinking, I'm going to be a musician?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, actually, this is what it is. Oh, actually, this is what I want to do. But acting always kind of remained an interest of mine. I continued to sort of like take courses here and there, and read books about it. I'm fascinated with the craft of acting. I mean, but at the end of the day, I'm fascinated in any kind of creative project, like creative activity or performing activity. I'm just interested in what makes it work. What is the craft of the artist, in general.
So you do a self-produced album,
Yeah.
self-written and self-promoted, self-financed.
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
Tell me, how was that received? That's your first album.
Yeah, so it's funny because JW was very helpful there, because I made the album, I got it printed, and I was actually JW's roommate at that time. And I received a box of CDs that I had manufactured, and I put them down in the dining room, and I said, oh, great, I have CDs now. I can sell them. And JW goes, okay, what are you going to do about that? I said, well, oh, well, I'm just going to sell them at shows. Like, I'm just going to play gigs and I'm just going to sell them. And he goes, no, 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 no. So he went off and he printed out JW, the Consummate Businessman. I don't know where he learned this from. Like, the internet was barely a thing back then. Anyway, he prints out a list of all the blues radio stations in the entire world. Like, I'm talking everywhere, Australia, everywhere in Europe, the UK, United States. There was probably like South America on there too. Like, it was just comprehensive. And he hands me the list and he goes, you send a CD to everybody on that list. And I said, oh, okay. So I proceeded to do that. And it was picked up by a bunch of people right away, and people were happy to receive it and play it. So it was good that way. And then I don't remember how, but eventually Richard Flohill saw me play at the Rainbow in Ottawa. He was in town. It was him and Holger Peterson and I forget who else. But they were just at this gig that I played. And I remember meeting Richard there, and he was very helpful as always. And so that was sort of like a Toronto connection that started at that point. And I think he was the one that helped me put my records at Sam the Record Man or something. I forget. But and so then and then I think he connected me with the Women's Blues Review and the Toronto Blues Society and stuff. I think that's how that happened. And then I think through that I got an email from Alert Records, a record label, Toronto, and Tom Barry, and he wrote to me and he said, I represent Holly Cole and Kim Mitchell, and I was like, holy shit, like, what the hell? And he said, would you be interested in meeting? And I said, sure. and so that became a record deal and a management contract. And then
that happened pretty quickly.
Very, very quickly, yeah.
Like, did you have an idea of what you want to achieve?
I had no idea about anything.
Okay.
I had no idea about anything. All I knew was that I wanted to be a musician, and I had this opportunity, and I just took it.
If I was to ask you to go back in time and think what it meant for you to say, I wanted to be a musician, what did that symbolize? What did that mean? Would you be able to tell me what that was?
It was a lot of things, actually. It was very personal for me. Music was really a way for me to express things that I didn't feel I could express otherwise. I felt shy and introverted. Socially, I had very good friends, but I wasn't that comfortable socially. I was pretty awkward socially. And to this day, I still am. And music, but I felt sort of like there was something stifled, or I don't really know how to explain it, but when I discovered music and singing, it was like opening up the trap doors and being able to fully express everything that I was feeling,
The shyness and being an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so many musicians are,
Mm-hmm.
but when you get up on stage, did
Mm-hmm.
that affect you in any way?
So it's funny because I was always comfortable on stage. On stage felt more comfortable for me than in a group of people. or at a party or whatever.
Is that from the very beginning?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. From a child, I would always seek out performing opportunities. I was always excited to perform something that I felt excited about. Like, that's where sort of where the acting thing came from. I would like put on, dance recitals. Like I was always seeking out performance as a child. There was something about it that made me feel maybe free or like whole. I don't know why, but that's what it was. That's how it felt. Like I could, again, it was like an ability to express something that I couldn't in everyday life.
So beyond that, what did that initial, I don't know if success is the right word, but recognition, what did that mean to you?
Oh, it meant the world to me. It meant the world to me because it felt like my dream could maybe come true, and that was a very significant thought. Like, oh my God, this, I'm a big dreamer, and I'm very idealistic, and I'm very romantic, and I'm very emotional. So, all of those ideas were very big, and to be able to maybe realize those dreams was way beyond anything I could imagine, But it felt amazing that I could see maybe a path forward, to that. Yeah.
But in terms of like a career-wise, did that mean touring the world? Did that mean making lots of albums?
I think it meant, yeah, I don't think I was very clear about that part. I remember later on, no, that's not true, because I think I remember thinking that I was not looking to be like a star or a huge celebrity or anything like that. I would be happy if I could make a living and have a respectable career, even if it was like I didn't have any interest in being like the level of stardom where like you're in the tabloids and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like I had no interest. Like that was not the vision at all. I just wanted to be able to play music that I loved and make a living and, have the respect of my peers and that I think that's what it was originally.
And I presume things moved relatively quickly and continued to. I mean, a few years later, you're doing an album with Sue Foley and Deborah Coleman. What was that experience like?
That was interesting. It was very fast. I remember I was still writing my songs like the night before the recording session, like in my hotel room. So we didn't have a lot of time to hone it in or do anything like that. It was like you show up at the studio, you play the songs, and you're done, basically. Right. So it's kind of a flash in that sense. Like I don't remember a lot of it. I remember I have a really awful memory, actually, that I almost broke the sound engineer's eardrum. I feel to this day I feel so bad about that. Anyway, if he's listening, I'm sorry, because he had his ear next to the amp and he was trying to find the right position for the mic, and I was just kind of daydreaming and I was holding onto my guitar and I just played a super loud note like right in his ear. Anyway, he like fell over in pain and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that. To this day. I'm sorry. Yeah.
But other than that, was it a good experience?
Yeah, other than that, it was a good experience. Yeah, for sure. I remember while we were there, because we recorded that in Minneapolis. Well, one of the cool things was that we met Johnny Lang's original manager, who became our tour manager, and also his original producer. He was producing the album. It was Johnny Lang's original producer, and I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe, like, this is such a full circle moment." It's funny, to this day I have not met Johnny Lang, but I've met a couple of the people he worked with. But yeah, so another fun anecdote was while we were in Minneapolis, Dr. John was playing at this club for like 2 or 3 nights, solo. And me and Sue, I think Deborah might have come too, but we went to see him like for those 2 nights, and that was awesome. And we got to sing him happy birthday. It was his birthday on one of the nights. Anyway, yeah.
I presume at that point your profile's up a bit. Like, I mean, your name is out there.
So that would have been, so I had recorded an album. Did I record that album before that?
No, yeah, you did. The Way It Feels?
Yeah, The Way It Feels. Yeah, so that was already, yeah. So that was already out.
So that was 2006.
6, yeah.
Okay. I guess that took you to a different level.
Yeah, so that album was sort of like the launching pad, kind of, yeah, with a record label behind me, and, a Colin Linden production, went down to Nashville to do that. And so that was all that was a big thing, it was a big thing for me. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know what a producer was, it was just so out of my depth. But I had songs that I had written, and did some covers on that, and it was a good experience. I think I was really scared for a lot of it, but really excited for a lot of it.
Can I ask you where that fear comes from? What were you scared of?
Oh, fear is just part of the process for me. Well, it was just, like I said, like just not really knowing what I wanted, what it was going to be. I was just so inexperienced and young in the creative process of it all. I hadn't really decided what I wanted my artistic identity to be honest. I was playing blues, and I loved everything about the music, and I was writing, but I wasn't really writing with an intention or a direction. I was just at that point still just kind of writing whatever I could. I knew I wanted to write songs, like that was definitely an aim. But I think I think the outcome was still sort of open-ended. Like, I think, to be honest, I think if I could start over, I would have waited a lot longer before I launched myself into, like, the quote career part of things. I think that was premature for the stage that I was at.
But I guess when things keep happening to you, it wasn't like, I mean, I presume some of those things, I don't know if you had control over. That there was a momentum, and things were opportunities that presented to you very quickly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it was all very exciting. I just think that I was looking back, and you don't know when you're in it, and when you're that young, you don't have the self-awareness and all that. And you can always say, like, looking back, I would have done things differently. It's kind of a useless thing to say anyway, because you can't. But because I didn't understand what a creative career entailed at all. I didn't have any role models. Nobody around me was in a creative career in any capacity. So I think if maybe you know people who are creative for a living, you have a bit of an idea of like, oh, I should probably hone this skill or build up my confidence to a certain point before I take the next step forward, you know. Because the next step forward, where you become exposed and sort of like you feel kind of, you know, you're exposed to a lot more outside influence, outside opinion, outside criticism, whatever. It can just really become really confusing if you don't have a very clear sense of what you want to do, you know.
Do you think, I mean, one question, when you look back on that album that was Juno nominated,
Yeah.
obviously it got you recognition. How do you look back on the actual album and that music?
Yeah, I look back on it. I'm happy that I was able to do it, for sure. But I look back on it and I just think that I was so underdeveloped artistically, so young, artistically young, you know, creatively young. And like I said, you know, but you only get that through experience. You only get that through making an album and another album, you know, writing 500 songs. You can only, you know, so there can be no, oh, I wish I didn't do that, because those are the building blocks to get to wherever it is that you end up. The only thing is that, you know, it's sort of, I think it was just a premature announcement to the world that I was here when I didn't really know who I was yet in that way.
Was there a time when you realized who you were musically?
You know, it's a really interesting question. I don't even know if I'm completely clear on that even now.
Well, I presume it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and so in that sense, that, like, again, you know, I think that's just part of the process, that you know, you find your way as you're making your way, basically, you know. I just think for me, I was just kind of ill prepared for the level of exposure that early on. Right. Definitely, yeah. I wish that album had, you know, I wish those albums had been made in a sort of like a smaller, sort of more, I don't even know how to say that, you know, like a local album or whatever, where you're just kind of developing locally. Right. And at the same time, like, I mean, I don't know why, but in my mind, it seemed like a huge thing. But now that I think about it, like, I always try to think about it like, yeah, but it's not like for me, it just felt like now the whole world was like scrutinizing me. But you know what I mean? Like, that's not reality. It just felt that way for some reason.
I mean, was there expectations put on you that made you feel that way?
Why? I can do that all by myself. No, but yeah, I don't know if it was expectations put on me or expectations I put on myself. I think it's probably a lot of that.
But while you were going through it, did it change you because you kept making albums? Like
I did.
You kept going forward.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like whatever that did stopped you from progressing.
No, it didn't stop me from progressing.
Did it change you?
Yes, definitely changed.
In what way?
Well, it just sort of, it opened up a giant can of worms of insecurities and self-doubt and just, it sort of uncovered issues with, self-confidence, self-esteem, that I guess I had to contend with. But yeah, it was just a confusing time. It was a confusing time after that, because with everything that was going on and the accolades and all this, at the same time, I became super self-conscious and super, like, my confidence completely wiped out. And especially in live performance. I don't know why, but suddenly I just had a complete breakdown of my self-confidence, and it seemed like it happened progressively, but at the same time it seems like it happened just overnight, because one day I woke up and I was just kind of broken. It felt like, so that was really, really difficult. But I kept going because my identity was so attached to this dream of being a musician, and the sort of idealized idea that this was what I was, quote, meant to do, that I kept going. And because what else was I going to do? You know what I mean? Like, that was the only thing that I was getting up in the morning to do, was get up
Right.
and write songs and be a musician. That's what I was here to do. It felt like, what else am I going to do? But I think, so what happened is, I think that precipitated the journey of self-discovery. I was just like, okay, I have no idea who I am artistically, musically, what I want. So I'm going to figure it out. And I wanted to.
So what year would this be, or what album phase would this be?
So this was right before No Love for the Poisonous. So it would have been like 2007. And then 2008 was when the album came out. So I decided that I wanted my next album to be all of my own material, and I was going to present myself as myself, because I think that was one of the parts of the album before that felt, I don't really know how to explain this, but it felt, maybe it was imposter syndrome, actually, because I felt like I didn't deserve to be up there with Daniel Lanois, John Hyatt, Juno nominated, Bruce Cockburn. Like, it was like everybody was hyping me, so much that I was like, wait a minute, this is not me. Like, I'm not this thing that I'm being made out to be. Like, I'm not ready yet. Like, I'm just trying to sing and play, but I'm not even that good. And people are making me out to be this amazing musician, and I don't feel like that at all. Like, I didn't feel like that at all. I felt like I had so much more work to do, so much more growing to do, So I think that's what freaked me out. You know, I was like, my next album, I just want it to be true. I want it to be the version of me that is actually real. So it's going to be my songs, and it's going to be whatever I'm going through right now. So that's why it's called No Love for the Poisonous, because I felt so awful. You know, it's actually a really heavy, it's like the subject matter all over that album is actually really heavy.
But did you, when you put it out, did you think, or when you recorded it, did you think that was you? That correctly reflected who you were?
Well, and this is the funny thing. I've had many, 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 many years to reflect on all of this. So what I'm understanding now is that back then I was in the grips of major anxiety, depression, and I thought that that was the real version. I think we tend to believe the scary thoughts more than the good ones. So what I think I understand now is that both things are true. The scared part is true, but the joyful, excited part was true. And I think that artistically, it is so important to just stay connected to the joyful part. And I think that's what I lost sight of back then. I lost sight of the joyful part.
Okay, so you recently wrote, I think on your website, about how you came to the conclusion of giving up music in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine how difficult that decision was, but I presume that by that point you were probably thinking, this is the only thing I can do.
Yes.
It's the right thing to do at that point.
Yes, I think that, the most difficult years were, 2007 through 2012. That was the bulk of like the really shitty, shitty time.
But you kept going.
Yeah. It's funny how we can feel so awful and still, get up every day and do the thing, And I don't even know how to explain this. Maybe people who've gone through similar things will understand. But, it's that internal voice that is so constantly negative and fearful. But on the outside, you're just still a human being and doing the thing and whatever, I think I think we're getting really deep in this podcast. Jesus. I think I didn't listen. Like, I think that difficulty was probably telling me that there was something wrong, that I should look at it, and I didn't. I was just kind of I was overriding that and just kind of keeping going. And that's what brought me to the point where in 2021 I couldn't just keep going doing that. I couldn't keep going with that negative voice in my head every time I tried to play or sing or write, or, not every time, but most of the time, especially the singing and playing. It was like, so when I was younger and I was starting out, the thing that felt so good about singing and playing was that freedom that I felt. It literally felt like I could be myself, whatever that is, whatever that means. But when the break happened, or I don't know really how to say it, but when it shifted, I didn't feel free at all. I didn't feel connected at all. I mean, but that's what. So it's so complicated. It's so hard to just explain it in words. Like, ugh.
But when you stopped, did you feel a sense of relief? Was there?
Yes.
Okay. And what did that feel like?
It was a sense of relief, but it was also a sense of grief and loss and, well, what am I now? What am I now if I'm not that? So that was definitely there. But it was also, I was also feeling like, finally, you should have done this years ago. Like, why did you drag this out so long? Why did you push yourself so hard? Because I think at the end of the day, when you're not listening to what's going on inside, or you're trying to push through, too much, because I think the negative is just also trying to tell you something. Like, I think that's part of being kind to yourself, is when you feel shitty or you have these negative emotions, a lot of us try to just push through and like keep going. But I think, and that's where self-awareness becomes so crucial, is that it's important to look at those things instead of like go, nope, I can't be feeling that right now, and just keep going. You have to look at it and go, what is it about whatever I'm doing that's causing me to feel this way? And is there anything that I can do to adjust or change something to alleviate this pressure or whatever it is that you're feeling, And I think that's what I failed to do, I think the healthier thing back then, when I started struggling so much, would have been to just walk away immediately and just go like heal whatever it needed to be healed, But having said that, I don't want to sound like I'm not proud of all the things that I did in the meantime, because I am. It was a creative exploration, and that's what I set out to do. I set out to learn how to write. I learned so much during those years. It was extremely formative. Like, and maybe that's all it is. Maybe that time was just all formative, and maybe I don't know, maybe you're not supposed to feel good until until you've learned a bunch of shit, and you finally become happy with where you're at. Like, I don't know. I don't have the answers ultimately. But I know that now that I'm sort of like tiptoeing back in, I am doing it fully aware and fully intentionally. And the only thing that's important to me now is to stay in the joy of music. That is all that matters to me at this point. I don't care if I write the songs. I don't care if I don't write the songs. I don't care if I play a shitty little bar or a big stage. I don't care, as long as I feel good when I'm playing. That's the only rule now, I don't know if I would have learned that had I not gone through everything that I did, But it feels like a good place to be. Like, that feels like that was the place I was at the beginning, and that's where you should always aim to remain.
Right.
So it's kind of like a full circle back, to the initial
When I read
point.
an interview with you back in early 2000, like 2007 or something,
Yeah.
it talked about the joy of music and how much that meant to you, about waking up in the morning and looking forward to playing, writing,
Yeah.
doing that. And when that's gone, I can't imagine how difficult that is. I wonder, when you decide to stop, at what point, like you were concerned about losing your identity.
Mm-hmm.
When did you get that identity back? And who was that person?
Well, so what I discovered, and I just want to say also that the joy of music never completely disappeared. It was more like the joy of in the performance. The performance was the hard part. It was the part where I felt self-conscious, and the self-consciousness would just kind of suck the joy out of all of it. So it's more that, because I still enjoyed writing. I still enjoyed losing myself in the writing process, and that's why I kind of shifted everything toward writing music instead of performing music when it all sort of happened. Anyway, I just wanted to clarify that, because again, I don't want to make it sound like it's been completely horrible the whole time. It's not that. It was just that there was a major component missing for me, and that was the joy in playing and singing. So when I finally walked away and I was reflecting, I just realized that I could be, that what I wasn't a musician. My identity that I had wrapped up in this little box was actually underneath that. I was just a creative person. And sort of going one level down, like one level deeper, was really liberating, actually, because I was like, oh, right. So I can like have the creative spark or the creative pleasure, because it is so pleasurable to create, in any way I want. It doesn't have to be channeled all into music. I could channel it into whatever else I feel like doing, and that's how I ended up getting into perfumery, because that was something else that I loved scents and fragrance and all that. And when I was living in Montreal, I was working in wine bars a lot with sommeliers, and so I learned how to smell wine and identify different notes, and so anyway, so I was like, oh yeah, I have a pretty good nose, actually. I could maybe learn how do I learn how to make fragrance. And so I went down that rabbit hole. Like, that started in like 2023. So that was really liberating, actually, because it made me realize that I didn't have to if it didn't feel good. That's the thing. That's the thing, right? You don't have to if it doesn't feel good, And that's where I was stuck. I felt like I had to, just because I didn't know what I was apart from that. But now that's different, Now I do it because I want to, and only because I want to.
Do you think, as a writer, you've gotten better because of this?
Well, I haven't written a song, actually, for a few years. So I have not written anything. What I have done is I have started singing again and started playing again. And that was the thing that I wanted to heal the most. I wanted to see if I could reconnect to the initial feelings of joy, excitement, connection, love, as a broad term, that I felt when I was first singing, when I was singing in my bedroom, when I was playing at my parents' house. And it actually only started this year in little moments. Like, I started picking up my guitar, but again, it was such a process, it's such a process when you're so used to performing in an, how can I say, in like an outward way, you're like constantly sort of projecting, you're trying to project something, but you're kind of disconnected from the inside. You're just kind of performing, in quotes,
Right.
you know what I mean? And that doesn't feel good at all. That doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel connected. It doesn't feel good, you know? And I knew that, I guess, but I didn't know how to get back to it, because I think the thing is, when you're actually doing it from the inside, you're really vulnerable. When you're performing, you're just kind of hiding.
Mm-hmm.
You can just hide, you know, what's really going on. But when you're actually doing it connected, you're really putting yourself out there. And that's what ultimately scared the shit out of me back in those days, was because I was connected initially, and I was putting my whole self out there, and it became just too scary to do that. So I hid back inside myself, and I performed, but I wasn't able to connect with that inside part because it was too scary to put that out, you know. So I've only now, and it wasn't even something I could do by myself at home. Like, it was not happening at all. Like, I could not do it anymore. And that was honestly the most heartbreaking thing of my whole existence. Like, losing that was just, I don't even have a word for it. It was world shattering, you know. And that, I sound dramatic, but truly that's how that's how horrible it felt back then. So yeah, so it's just this year that I've started to feel like I'm reconnecting that with the inside, you know, with the heart.
Was there a moment like that you picked up and played a Beatles song or whatever? That
It
you
what
thought, "Oh,
you know what it was, and I remember because I recorded the song on my phone and I sent it to my boyfriend who was off at work. I picked up the guitar and I sang, because for the past few years, you know, I wasn't doing it, but I was sort of thinking about it, you know, like, oh, maybe I could try playing this song, or maybe I could try. But every time I would try, it would, like, that bad feeling would come up again. So I would just be like, I put it down now because I don't have to do this. So I'm not gonna push through the bad feeling. I'm just gonna put it down, you know. And it was an Aretha Franklin song, Do Right Woman. I picked up the guitar. It's funny because I had watched a documentary. It must have been a documentary about Fame Studios or something. Was it Fame? Anyway, and a guy on there played the chords to the song on his acoustic guitar, and I was like, oh wow, that actually sounds almost like a country song. Like, you could totally play that song on an acoustic guitar. Never thought of it. So that sort of like inspired me to try to play it. And I remember playing it, and that feeling was there again. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. It was there, and I was just taking my time, and I was just being present, and I wasn't stressed, and I wasn't trying to do anything. I was just loving the song, you know, which is what it's supposed to be. You're just loving the song, and you want to let it out, you know. And yeah, so that started that, and very quickly, so I started like playing every day again from that point on, and yeah, just trying to stay connected to that feeling. And it's really interesting. So it's really interesting because it's such a challenge, because I will still. So I just started performing again, very, very little, but doing retirement homes around town. Because I put a song list together of like songs that I love from the 50s and 60s, you know, going back to my childhood. Like, my childhood love. And I thought, well, who better to play these songs for than people who grew up with them, right? So I could just go do that. No pressure. It's just fun, you know, whatever. But I tell you, it's like, it doesn't take much for the disconnect to happen, you know. But what I'm able to do now, and last night actually, I played my first full gig since, God, I don't even remember, 2021 or something. It was a solo gig at Barely's that I did last night. And it was such an interesting opportunity to, from all I've learned about all of it, the disconnection, how the disconnection happens, like what's going on, like how to reconnect, what to do, like this is all things that I've learned, you know, or that I'm trying to learn anyway. But so last night I was like really intentionally trying to stay connected and noticing the moments where I was disconnecting. And when I mean disconnecting, I mean hiding back into myself. Like where I become the performer again, where I'm not connected to the song and the music and the joy. I hide again, you know, and I go, oh, okay, you're doing it. So, okay, what's going on? Okay, so maybe like pull it back a bit. And because I notice in those moments, I'll start to play louder, or I'll try to sing more, you know, like you're just like, you're going outside of yourself, but really you have to get back into yourself, right? So last night was super interesting, and I was able to navigate it, you know? So I'm like, okay, we're making progress, you know? And it's funny because I also notice that people respond differently when you perform a song from the outside is when you perform it from the inside. Like there was a direct correlation. I could predict it. If I was playing a song and I was like, yep, I'm not getting it. This is not happening. The applause were sort of like, yeah, okay, that was all right. And versus the songs where I was like, yeah, I'm really in there. Like this is from the heart, you know, and people would feel it and respond back, you know. So it's a crazy thing. It's I know like this is like all really deep and stuff, but I believe in all of this 100%. Like, that's the magic of music, you know. It's all energy. In relationship, you know, I mean, this is true for everything in life. You know, what you put out, you get back. It's a constant circle, you know. It's a constant exchange happening, you know. So anyway, that's...
So the other thing that came out of this is a podcast series that you're working on.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yes. So it's called Sour Notes, and so this is an idea that I had been toying with for the last few years that I thought I would want to do. So... because I wanted to talk to musicians about all of this stuff, all of the inner critic stuff. Like, do you struggle with that? You know, do you feel like you constantly have, you know, a gremlin in the back of your mind barking at you when you're trying to do anything creative? Like, is that a thing for other people, you know? So anyway, so I finally got it going this year, and so I'm talking to musicians about that, about self-doubt, about the inner critic, about, you know, the things that we don't talk about, really, because I think artists or performers are just kind of like trying to put their best foot forward, you know. That's like, who would want to hear about, you know, whatever I'm going through? Like, oh, I have an album out. Oh, I have a new video. Like, check this out. You know, this is sort of what the, like, what's expected, or what people think is expected anyway. But I wanted to get underneath a couple of layers and talk about what's actually happening for a lot of us, actually, that it's, it can be a struggle, and it can be difficult to put yourself out there.
What have you learned from that experience of producing this podcast?
Well, I've learned I've learned a lot of things from the interviews. I've learned definitely that it doesn't happen the same way for everybody, but it's there for most people. It just depends on the tools you have to be able to navigate it. And like, the tools can be so many things, so many things play into, mental health and ability to cope with all of those stresses and the pressures, and internal and external, So definitely, it's a super interesting process to be able to talk to artists about this. And it's great because the feedback that I get mostly is like, oh, cool, glad you're doing that. Like, I think there's a desire to connect on that level from people, because I think people feel alone in this a lot. And so I'm kind of happy to create a place of connection to talk about that if people want.
And I expect this to be going out sometime in August or later on in August. I presume your podcast will be available by then?
Oh, I hope. I've got a few episodes edited and pretty much finished. So I'm sort of planning on putting it out mid-August.
And the process of doing it, has that been enjoyable for you?
That's what I was going to say. Because it's funny. I actually recorded a voice memo about this that I was going to share on my page. Actually, I'll probably share that today. I really became self-conscious as I was doing it. Like, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't get away from my self-critic. It's insane. Like, it's like I'm literally experiencing the thing that I'm trying to have an interview about. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like in my head, and I'm overthinking, and I'm just like, self-conscious and all that stuff. So, I guess it's a work in progress. But what I have learned, though, doing it, is that I've learned to be nicer to myself about it, and to keep going slowly, and to try, and to just, don't give up. Don't give up, just be nicer to yourself. I think that's the lesson.
That's a pretty good lesson.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do. But because I would really like to keep it going, because I think it's a valuable conversation to put out there.
I agree. Well, thank you for sharing this with me. I mean, I know it couldn't have been an easy thing to live through.
Yeah.
I appreciate you talking about it.
You're very welcome. I hope it made sense for people. I hope I didn't go off in too many tangents.
No, absolutely not. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Thank you.